Episode 11, The Weaver's Testament, Threads of Ash and Storm. Chapter 1, The Ashen Envoys. The great halls of Aether-Zarr burned with a faint glow of dying embers. After the sea bells tolling, the air itself seemed heavy, as if the world had begun holding its breath. Evangeline Vehlon summoned envoys from fractured houses to discuss the rising turmoil. Among them came emissaries from the Scarlands, cloaked in ash-stained furs, their faces hidden behind bone masks. They brought with them a gift, a reliquary forged of charred iron, humming faintly with voices too old to name. When opened, the reliquary revealed not treasure, but dust that rose into the air and formed the faint outline of a crown. The emissary spoke. "Crowns are nothing but dust. All thrones shall fall into silence unless bound to fire or drowned in tide." Fear rippled through the court. Some claimed it was an omen from the gods. Others whispered it was a curse from Viserion himself, a warning before his coming. Serathor, watching from the dais, felt the ash stir toward him, almost as though it recognized his breath. Chapter 2, The Storm Tide. Pact. Far across the sea, in Vehlon's drowned temples, Ithoriya Vehlon performed the rite of the tide shaft. With coral bleeding visions into her hands, she beheld a storm without end, a sky torn open by fire and water, where serpents of lightning writhed around a beast of black wings. Her priests declared it the storm tide prophecy, that the drowned would rise once more, not to reclaim their lands, but to bind their fate with flame. The prophecy demanded a pact. Water and fire united, or the world would collapse into unmaking. Thus, a delegation was prepared to sail again toward Aether-Zarr, not in secrecy, but with banners unfurled, carrying chains of living coral that pulsed as though alive. Yet hidden among them were zealots, the Tideborn, sworn to sink the world's kingdoms beneath endless floods. As their tide ships left the reefs, whispers spread in Vehlon's streets. If Vehlon commands fire and Vehlon commands tide, then who commands the storm? And far beyond mortal hearing, in the loom's silent chambers, threads of black and silver knotted tighter. The prophecy was no longer waiting, it was binding. Chapter 3, The Crimson Court's Whisper. In Metropolis X, beneath the spider sigil banners of House Erendor, Orianna sat upon her throne of crimson glass. The city bent beneath her voice, though she had not spoken aloud for weeks. Her whispers, serpentine, velvet, venomous, coiled through the dreams of Thres Erendor. The Ruby Prince's eyes had grown hollow. He demanded more tributes from starving vassals, gold and blood alike. The nobles obeyed, not out of loyalty, but out of terror that to displease him was to displease her. Yet Orianna was not content with shadows. She summoned her Crimson Court, masked advisors, assassin lords, and dreamweavers who stitched lies into memory. There she spoke at last. The sea bell has rung. The tide stirs. Vehlon clings to flame, and Vehlon prepares chains of coral. Let them tighten their noose. For when the storm breaks, it is I who shall weave the final thread. And so, secret missives flew from Metropolis X, carried by winged crows with eyes of ruby glass. Each bore the same message. The prophecy bends. The prince is not alone. Choose now, or be unmade. Chapter 4, The Black Prince's Oath. Beyond the fractured hills, beneath skies bruised with stormlight, Viserion appeared, not in a blaze of triumph, but in silence, walking among exiles, draped in a cloak of torn banners stitched together with ash thread, his eyes, pale as frozen skies, fixed upon the horizon where the loom was said to turn. He gathered the broken, soldiers without banners, widows whose vows had turned to dust, children cast aside by warring houses. To them he spoke no prophecy, no grand promise, only a simple oath. Peace is a lie woven by cowards. I offer war. War against the gods, against the lords, against the loom itself. If the world denies us names, then we shall write our own in fire and blood. The exiles fell to their knees. Some wept. Others carved his name into their arms, sealing it with blood. A few raised banners. black banners, painted not with crowns or phoenixes, but with a single broken thread. And as thunder rolled above, Viserion lifted his hand. A manticore, wings tattered but aflame with unnatural fire, descended at his side. The beast bowed its head, as if the skies themselves had bent to his will. The Black Prince mounted, and the earth shook. The age of unravelling had begun. Chapter 5. The Tournament of Shadows. The lords of the fractured realms sought to smother unrest with spectacle. In Aether-Zarr, among terraces glowing with volcanic fire, the Tournament of Shadows was declared. Knights, mercenaries, and heirs rode into the crimson-lit arena, their armor reflecting banners of every house. The air reeked of blood and burning oil. Drums thundered as if echoing the heartbeats of the watching crowd. Evangeline Vehlon presided, her son Serathor at her side. The boy's eyes flickered like living embers. Yet he did not cheer. Instead, he whispered to the torches, and the torches leaned toward him, trembling like worshippers. Into this storm walked Kelvar, master of blades. Cloaked in black steel, twin swords forged of lost etheric ore glinted at his side. He fought not for banners, but for silence. Each strike measured, each victory inevitable. The crowd roared his name, yet he bowed to no house. But as the final duel began, a shadow fell across the amphitheater. From the east, a black banner unfurled, a broken thread painted on cloth of ash, and with it, mounted on a manticore, came the figure whose name had burned on every tongue, Viserion, the Black Prince. Gasps rippled through the stands. Some cried, "Savior." Others screamed, "Curse." The Tournament of Shadows had become more than a contest. It was the stage of prophecy itself. Chapter 6. The First Clash of Threads. The duel between Kelvar and Viserion was no planned event, yet none could stop it. As the Black Prince dismounted, his manticore hissed fire into the sky. Kelvar drew his twin swords, the arena falling silent except for the hiss of molten rock beneath their feet. The fight was brutal, elemental. Kelvar's steel-carved arcs of cold precision. Viserion's strikes were raw, driven by fury, older than his years. The manticore circled the ring, its wings stirring cinders into storm clouds. But the true battle was unseen. Whispers slithered through the crowd. Orianna's voice curling from ruby lanterns. Choose your prince, the blade or the shadow. But know this, only one thread shall bind the loom. At the duel's climax, Kelvar's blade met Viserion's gaze. For a heartbeat, the world stilled. And in that stillness, both men saw visions. Cities drowned in tide, towers burning, the loom itself shattering under unseen hands. The clash ended not with victory, but with interruption. A messenger stumbled into the arena, drenched in seawater, eyes wide with terror. "The drowned rise! Vehlon's bells have tolled thrice. The sea itself marches to war." The amphitheater erupted into chaos. Nobles fled, assassins drew steel, and the manticore screamed flame at the heavens. The first clash of threads had been fought, but the weave was only beginning to tear. Chapter 7. The Sea Bells Legion. The drowned temple had long been silent, its bells rusted, its priests forgotten. Yet now, with the tolling of the sea bell, Vehlon's dead stirred. From the abyss rose warriors clad in barnacled armor, salt water spilling from empty sockets where eyes once were. They bore coral-forged spears that dripped with abyssal ichor, and upon their shields were painted waves that bled into shapes of teeth. At their head sailed Euphoria Vehlon, oracle of the drowned. She carried a shard of living coral that wept visions into her hands. Each night she whispered to it and trembled, for it showed her kingdoms burning not by fire alone, but by the tide itself, swallowing spires whole. When her tide ships broke the surface, storm wolves followed, their howls carried on thunder. The Sea Bells Legion marched not toward conquest, but toward reckoning. Their message was clear: the loom has turned. The tide will claim what fire cannot.
Chapter 8. Threads of Betrayal. In Aether-Zarr, panic from the tournament still burned. Nobles whispered in secret chambers, choosing sides before sides were even named. House Arinder, poisoned by Orianna's whispers, sent veiled emissaries to offer alliance with the Black Prince. House Vehlon, fractured by Serathor's unnatural fire gift, debated if the boy was heir or abomination. House Kael'Run held its silence, their floating libraries circling ever lower, as if preparing to descend for the first time in centuries. In the shadows, Septon Arvale of the Silent Flock gathered converts by candlelight. His voice carried like flame through dry parchment. If the gods are dead, then let men take their place. If the loom is frayed, let us weave anew. But betrayal came swifter than prophecy. On the eve of council, a vassal lord drew steel within the obsidian halls, crying, "Deltharn's fire has burned too long, let the tide cleanse it." Blood stained the banquet tables. Serathor, trembling yet defiant, whispered to the flames, and the torches screamed to life, burning the traitor where he stood. Guests fled, some swearing loyalty to Vehlon, others swearing vengeance. And above it all, unseen yet felt, Orianna laughed from her ruby throne in Metropolis X. The threads were no longer unraveling, they were binding, twisting into a knot of war. Chapter 9, The Gathering Storm. The world had waited too long for peace, and now the silence shattered. From the ash-salted plains came riders bearing the broken thread banner of Viserion, the Black Prince. No lordly coffers supplied them, no polished knights adorned their ranks, they were exiles, oath-breakers, and dreamers who believed prophecy breathed through their prince. By torchlight, Viserion spoke to them from a cliff above the tide. "You call me traitor. You call me curse. But I am neither. I am the unbroken song that your kings tried to silence. Ride with me, not for crowns, not for coin, but for the truth that the loom itself hides." The host answered with steel raised to the stars. Meanwhile, the Seabell's legion advanced inland. Saltwater spilled from their boots as if the sea itself marched with them. Villages fled, their bells silenced, their wells poisoned with brine. Wherever they passed, whispers followed, "The drowned cannot be slain." The storm was gathering, not of weather, but of banners and blood.
Chapter X, The Night of Broken Oaths. In the obsidian halls of Aether-Zarr, Evangeline Vehlon summoned her council. The torches hissed, uneasy, as Serathor's ember-lit eyes watched every word. Envoys arrived. Erendor's emissaries demanded tribute in Orianna's name. Kael'Run's scholars offered riddled prophecy, claiming, "One black-haired prince shall burn the sky, another shall drown the earth. Choose wisely, for the loom does not forgive." Vehlon's drowned heralds brought coral-choked gifts, declaring the tides would claim Veltharn's flames unless they bent knee. But loyalty snapped like old thread. That night, a third of Veltharn's vassals deserted, riding under banners inked in salt and blood. Others swore fealty to Viserion, claiming the Black Prince carried the mantle of destiny. At dawn, only two things remained certain. The sea had risen. The fire would answer.